and party. Hritam usurped. Gata Yidva, having killed. Asata, the unscrupulous. And Raja of the queens. Kacha, bunch of hair. Sparsha, roughly handled. Shata, decreased. Ayusha, by the duration of life. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, the duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the glorious days, or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. 1. The protection of the Brahmanas maintains the institution of Varna and Ashram, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. 2. The protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, that is, milk for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. 3. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress in life. 4. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadan Samskara, the beginning of pure life. 5. The protection of old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. This complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above-mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden, because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varna Sankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushasan, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreant died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. Sorry. Okay. Om Aginatmirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namusite Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sundibhe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namni. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine. Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guratse Namaha. Nandalila Maya Vigrahaya Himabhedi Vacha Vishindaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So the translation in English for this text is: the clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous king who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him, the Lord, that is. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. So, a lot of things to learn from this. Offenses, brutality, there are repercussions, things that come from doing such. Nobody gets away with, as they say in America, free lunch. Especially if you do the wrong thing, you have to go through some sort of chastisement from it. The Lord arranges that. And so first thing, we have to be careful how we handle our lives, even with material, definitely sitting at the mode of goodness. And we are fortunate enough to have connection with transcendence, especially through hearing and chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, the clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira. So Queen Kunti is calling Duryodhana clever. Of course, clever in a negative sense. He knew that the kingdom really wasn't for him. He knew that his uncle Pandu died in an untimely way. He knew that when it comes to the older person among those children was Yudhishthira and not him. He knew all of that. And still, because his father was blind and his father was older, but blind, older than Pandu, and he couldn't get the kingdom because, well, you just don't let a blind person get a kingdom like that. And if you can have a substitute, you certainly would go for the substitute who's also well-trained. But all of this was not taken into consideration in its proper perspective by Dhritarashtra, and then of course Shakuni had his own plans, because Shakuni was upset with the Kuru dynasty. Bhishma coming to take his beautiful sister and proposing that, or requesting that she marry the same blind Dhritarashtra. And not only did she agree, but she also blindfolded herself. And this was very difficult for Shakuni to deal with. And he never forgave Hastinapur for doing that. And so the whole thing was set up. But see now, as it said in Brahma Samhita, Krishna Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. These were all set up. Of course, we don't blame Krishna directly, but Krishna is the cause of all causes, because the real problem was there were too many demons on the earth anyway. So ultimately, this is all set up so that they would be removed. And that's what Queen Kunti is talking about. This clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira. They underneath made different plans to get rid of Yudhishthira or somehow not let him be king. Yudhishthira wasn't even inimical towards them. He didn't see them as enemies. But by the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed. I like the way Maharani put it. The recovery was executed. Of course, the whole war with 640 million people died in the process. And so many demons were gotten rid of, beginning with Putana. So many demons that were on earth. And so arranged that they were under the control of Kansa, because Kansa had in fact been successful in defeating them. So now they were answering to him, and he sent them to Vrindavan, and one after another, they were killed by young Krishna at the time. And then the Pandavas did the rest. So by the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed. So this summarizes a lot of things. And the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by the arrangement of Krishna. Others also died. Now, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Now, we know it was Dushasan directly that did that, but Dushasan was sent by Duryodhana to go bring Draupadi to Dhritarashtra's court with all of these distinguished saints sitting there. All of this is going on because of dice and Shakuni's plans. Now, there is repercussions for things that happen. And if we do wrong, there's mercy, and devotees, sometimes when we do the wrong thing, we get slapped on the wrist, but we do get slapped. It's not like we get away with it. We do get slapped on the wrist. And so, and Krishna would make sure that the slap may be a slap on the wrist, but we will feel it too. That means there is reaction. And so we got to be careful about how we act towards devotees, especially devotees, because devotees are special people. Although Krishna is equal to everyone, but most people have turned their heads away from Krishna consciousness. Devotees are turned towards Krishna consciousness, and therefore they have, and we, as you say, all of us that are trying to be devotees or good devotees, we have special mercy for that reason. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport that in the glorious days, or before the advent of the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were given protection properly before the advent of the age of Kali. By the way, yes, there is Satya Yuga, there is Treta Yuga, there is Dwapara Yuga, and there is Kali Yuga. But actually, the people make the age at the time. The people make the age. It's not like Krishna wants people to be more and more sinful. The people will become sinful because you get more and more attracted to Maya. And so the age changes in that way. Of course, the big, as it says in the Shastra, situation that caused the age of Kali to come full strength was Shringi cursing Maharaj Pariksit. Shringi was the son of the Brahman. And then, the age came in full strength, because then the Brahmanas now have been looked at as not being through Shringi, the cause of the problems for such a great king being cursed to live only 7 days and then die. Srila Prabhupada explains that Maharaj Pariksit could have overturned the curse, but he took it as the Lord's situation. He left the kingdom, Lord's grace. Something is supposed to happen. He left the kingdom to his sons, Maharaj Janmejaya being the oldest, and he went to the banks of the Ganga, and true enough, it was arranged for Shukadeva Goswami to also come. And Maharaj Pariksit was going to leave, and what was the best thing to do for a person about to leave? There was deliberation among the sages there, and then finally it was decided that Shukadeva Goswami would in fact speak about Krishna to Maharaj Pariksit. That's the best way to leave, and this is how Bhagavatam was spoken to Maharaj Pariksit for our benefit. Now we are in there talking about. So in the age of Kali, the Brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men are not being given the proper protection in this age of Kali. Srila Prabhupada talks about the benefits of the protection of each of these classes, beginning with the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas, when they are protected, then the institution of Varna and Ashram, which is the proper form of government, that's then set. It doesn't get disrespected. But because the Brahmanas are not being properly protected, now Varnashrams, like if you look at the Varnas, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and then Shudras. Well, there are still the skeleton of Varnas, it's called skeleton, it's still there because the Varnas, they are comprised of the Brahmanas, the religious people, then the administration and the military, that's still there. Then the business people, Vaishyas, that's still there. And the Shudras, the employees, that's still there. But what's the quality of it though? That's the issue. Big, 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 big issue. The Brahmanas are, if you add the priests of the different churches, many of them have been compromised because they're going after money. They're using the Shastra to go after money. And in other words, they preach, and the whole idea is it's a business. They have made a business out of it. Do they advise the Kshatriyas? Absolutely not. The Kshatriyas wouldn't even hear them. The Kshatriyas do whatever they want to do. And the Kshatriyas are very, very much compromised. The politicians, Kali Yuga politics. We all have given it a name, Kali Yuga politics. It's dead. It's dead. Spiritually, it's dead. Vaishyas are supposed to do business, but also protect the cows. Vaishyas are killing the cows in the slaughterhouses. And then when that happens, then the Shudras that are supposed to be the employees serving, they may serve, but they will get confused. They wouldn't know which way is up, which way is up. There would be so much more to ignorance within the Shudras, because the classes that they're supposed to look up for or look up to and work with are all contaminated. And that's the situation we're in now. So how fortunate we are that Srila Prabhupada has come and not only changed things, he's told us, putting the head back. The head that is the Brahman situation, and even going higher. Brahmanas are supposed to advise the kings based on the mode of goodness, to stay, the kings stay in the mode of goodness, so that they would rule the people with the proper protection and empathy and sympathy that needs to be there. So in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 42, the Brahmanas themselves work under a certain type of consciousness: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and being religious. That's how the Brahmanas work. Now, Srila Prabhupada has put the protection of the Brahmanas as very important, because that's how the institution of Varna and Ashram are maintained. Now, some of us might think, well, we could have written Vaishnavas, but he wrote Brahmanas. The idea is the Brahmanas aren't supposed to necessarily change the religions of the different people, okay? But what works is the Brahmanas should help both the administration and the people in general come up, at the very least, to the mode of goodness. That should be there, so the society can function. to be a Vaishnava, it's said in places in the Shastra, you will have gone through so many lifetimes of purification, so many other things it takes for a person to accept Krishna. That's why very few people accept Krishna, although general goodness is there. And so the Brahmana's function is not only to operate on these that we've just discussed here, Samo, Dhamma, Tapasoicham, Shanti, Ajabam, Evacha, Jnanam, knowledge, Vijnanam, wisdom, Astikyam, Brahma, Karma, Svabhava. That's where, that's the qualities by which they work. So if these peacefulness, just imagine a peaceful Brahmana is able to tell these people who are preparing all kinds of nuclear bombs about peace and self-control and austerity. If the Brahmanas could tell people who are in control about austerity and purity, there will be no embezzlement of any money. That won't happen. Tolerance and honesty and knowledge, but it's not working these days. So there's so much that needs to be done. So much that needs to be done. And the Lord will, in fact, be under. He's the cause of all causes, so change will come. But when the Lord makes changes, sometimes he makes changes, 640 million people leave their bodies. So we'll see what that would happen. But there will be some change. As the golden age is supposed to come for a brief period of time, so there will be some change. The cows. Protection of a cow, Srila Prabhupada said, maintains the most miraculous form of food, that is milk, for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. Interestingly enough, this advantage of drinking cow's milk is not, you won't find this particular definition in a regular cow meat. You look on the internet, you won't find this. It's only here, maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. But still, cow's milk, even if you look online, they'll tell you the National Dairy Council says milk has 9 essential nutrients. So I looked it up. There's calcium for building healthy bones. They deal with only the body, right? Physical body. Healthy bones and teeth. And maintaining the bone mass. There's a lot of protein, which is a source of energy and repairs muscle tissue. It has potassium, maintains good blood pressure. It has phosphorus. It strengthens the bones and generates energy. It has vitamin D. It also helps maintain bones. It has vitamin B12. It has vitamin A, which is for immune system. And it has a few things, B2, converts food into energy, and then niacin, which also metabolizes sugar and fatty acids. So even from a scientific point, milk has all of these. And then Srila Prabhupada, of course, is not talking much about things material. So he says, it maintains the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. So the protection of cows. In the book, The Higher Taste, the case is made that the cow, I mean, it's a good conclusion they come to, even economically, that the cow is much better for human society alive than killed for beef and for meat. And it's proven there. So many things the cow gives. Milk is one of them, and the milk sweets and the other kinds of formation of the yogurt and the butter and the cheese, all of that comes from the milk. But cow urine is also medicinal. Cow dung is also a fuel. So much can benefit society when the cow is alive. Even the cow that is not giving any more milk still gives urine and still gives cow dung. So they're still useful. So the protection of cows, and because cows are not being protected, so then the world is now going through such turmoil. Killing cows, then some of the fallback or the chastisement will be wars. People are also going to get killed. The soul is the same in the cow as the same as in the human body. So if we respect and take a physical body, kill it. Sri Prabhupada says, he gave an example like an apartment. The person is in their apartment. We don't have a right to boot out the person. It's only the landlord that can have the person leave the apartment. The same way, the physical body is the apartment and the real person is inside the soul, inside the apartment. It is by the arrangement of the authorities that a person can leave. So we just, therefore, the slaughterhouses are going to bring more and more and more and more confusing situations. And of course, Krishna has the demigods kind of warning us with different things that are happening, the weather getting worse and worse and worse. And what are people doing? You listen to the news, they'll tell you, oh, this is the worst situation in so many years. The worst ever situation. Nobody realizes that the Kali Yuga type of cow killing, no protection of women, all of these is what's causing it. So number 3, Srila Prabhupada says the protection of women maintains the chastity of society. And through chastity, then good souls come. And good souls that are more religious, peaceful, non-violent. When people are born under horrible situations, then the soul that comes is also a soul that's going to cause trouble. Sometimes even some souls are born, they're not wanted. So this is, it's a problem, big problem. And women are like Lakshmi. They are that important to us. We cannot do much without Lakshmi. And my Guru spent, it was a lecture called Protection of Women, spent so much time talking about different aspects of why women are important and why they should be protected. It's for the good of society that women get protected. So properly protected and cared for women bring about good children. They will be trained properly, but when women are abused, then of course, as Kunti was saying here, Mahani Kunti, the abuser will suffer a shorter lifespan. Not to mention complications that will come after the life also. And before things got really bad, in good times, there were even situations where a woman could sleep under a tree and not be disturbed by bad people. Those times have come and now they've gone. You have to be very careful. What are we now? What are we in now? A situation where women won't walk the streets at night. Women just go home, make sure they stay indoors. Even the ladies of the night, the prostitutes that are out there are still out there, still true enough, but then there are men not too far from them watching over them to protect them. Even that's going on because there are bad people, and Kali Yuga is just going worse and worse and worse and worse. So, protection of children. Children are more vulnerable just because of their size, their strength. Babies, toddlers, and then up to teenagers and so on, still they are dependent. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Srila Prabhupada says. And such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the process of Garbhodhan Samskara. So, Garbhodhan Samskara is done by both parents and parents-to-be in order to bring good children. This is one of the samskaras that is good to have. You have a priest that can do that. You go through that before the parents or the parents-to-be, the husband and the wife, seed, to have sex life in order for, before the woman gets pregnant. So Srila Prabhupada, by his mercy, knows that not everybody gets an opportunity to have the priest and the arrangement for this samskara. So in the absence of a sanskar, Prabhupada has allowed replacement of that with 50 rounds of japa earlier in the day before the husband and wife indulge in sex life during the ovulation period of the wife, of course. That has to be there. So 50 rounds of japa. They had to go 50 rounds of japa, and it's very, very good to go through that because it really, really helps your consciousness. By the time you finish 50 rounds, you're very much in the mode of goodness and in transcendence by the time you do 50 rounds straight during the day, earlier in the day. So children should be cared for and trained beginning from the womb. When the wife is pregnant, that child, as soon as the brain tissue begins to form, and other senses are forming, they will begin to hear right from the womb. Even through the difficult time they have in the womb, they will hear. And therefore, it is important for the woman to be around things devotional, lectures, kirtans, bhajans, and be careful. Be around people who don't speak in a mode of passion and ignorance, because a child can pick up all of that. As a matter of fact, it reminds me of this. Before I even became a devotee, there was a situation where there was this young lady that I knew. This was in Massachusetts, in Brockton, Massachusetts. Very good singer. And she had a boyfriend. She got pregnant. And we're talking about Kami lifestyle, so you understand that. And one time I was talking to her over the phone, and she was expressing so much surprise that the little baby that had been born knew some words, street language words that she never taught the child, but the child already knew it. She said, well, how is that possible? But at that time, I did not know much about Krishna consciousness, so I couldn't explain. But later it was explained to me. So she herself was around people who use those words, and the baby picked it up while the baby was in the womb. So she came out knowing it. Now, another situation, a devotee. This is now back in Washington, in Pennsylvania, where I'm at now. A devotee child. We knew when the mother got pregnant, the child was born, and the child grew up as, I think, 1 year thereabouts, when they just began to start walking. He could just stand up to finish the crawling, and now he could be on his feet. And we'll have programs, that time, Friday programs. And when it came to kirtan time, that boy could hardly walk properly, but he would just start leaping a little bit to try to dance. I mean, it was so much fun. He had heard this because we knew where the mother was, around devotees the whole time. Even the place where she was working, that business was owned by a devotee. So you could do whatever you wanted there in terms of your Gayatri. If you're a Brahmin, nobody's surprised by anything. And he himself was Krishna conscious. He was Navaligandra Swami disciple who was actually owned the business here in Harrisburg. And so being in a situation like that at home and also at work, the child picked up so much. And it didn't take him, by the time he was 5 years old, he had memorized quite a few of the scriptures, the texts. He just started picking it up just like that. So a lot has to do with the type of pregnancy that the wife goes through in terms of where the person is at the time, where they go, what they say, and all of that's picked up by the baby. And so when they come, the baby comes out of the womb, he's already been, in a sense, trained to for a few months, 9 months in the womb and connected with Krishna. And so then it's easy to have an flow right out of the womb into Krishna consciousness. So the baby should be adequately provided for, of course, materially, father and mother, and spiritually, materially and spiritually. Materially is also important because how we raise our children speaks very much about how people regard the society as a whole. If our children are not properly cared for, that reflects on the way in which people perceive the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And that affects all the work Srila Prabhupada has done. We want to give out books by Srila Prabhupada, but people who are not happy about or look at how we handle ourselves, handle our children, and they see and they say it's not good, they won't be so interested in what we have to offer to them. So indirectly, how we deal with our children affects just how far society itself goes and how other people perceive the society. If they are brought up properly, there's no reason for them to leave. It's gone when they grow up. They'll be just part of it. And Lord knows that Srila Prabhupada disciples are the age where most of them will be leaving in the next maybe decade or so. Some of them have already left. And of course, we have to have people replacing them in society to go on. So these are all, seems like background stuff, but it does in fact affect how society operates. And this is Lord Chaitanya's society. So Prabhupada is the CEO, but the owner is Lord Chaitanya, the Lord himself. So each one should do his or her part to make sure that our children are well cared for, are well protected. If you can do Govardhan Sanskar, absolutely do it. Get it done with the priest. If not, 10, 50 rounds. Man should 10, 50 rounds. Woman should 10, 50 rounds before you invite the soul into the womb of the woman or the wife. Protection of old men. Well, the protection of old men and women, give them a chance to prepare themselves for a better life after death. Srila Prabhupada is saying that in the purport. It gives them a chance to prepare themselves for a better life after death. And yes, old people do in fact think about death. You can't escape that thought because you know that when the bones slow down, the next thing is that would come at some point. So old men and women are generally weaker physically due to the aging process. Now, many of them retire from active work. So an older person could be a source of advice for younger people because of longer life's experience and maturity. This is a huge advantage, even though the body, the bones don't move as well as you used to, but the mind is still there, and so many things have happened. And the old person has been here for decades. So they know the way it was like. They can compare the way when they were younger to the way things are now, and they can give you a more well-rounded perspective about life to the younger persons. Interestingly enough, this is a society of everything being done so quickly and so fast. But quickly, everything done quickly, get here, do this, do this, do this, and the rat race, that's more the passion, already more the passion. And the older person would not advise you to go that race. They're not, because they know you work yourself crazy and your body is being, it's just so much taxed because of the way life, people just want more and more and more and more and more. Of course, we don't have a proper balance system anyway. That's why this is going on by the Vaishnavas. But slowing down is important. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada, what he has us do, japa, is a real nice, slow down, meditative process. And if you can do more than 16 rounds, so much the better. Because the 16 rounds, after all, minimum. So that's great advantage of being around an older person who is a devotee. You will get good source of advice, spiritually, materially. You can use that for your own children. If you have children, the older person is a grandfather or a grandmother, so much can be obtained. So don't be so quick to send them to places where they just be, put out. And what is it, the old folks home, what they talk about? Devotees especially should kind of avoid having the older people go to these places. We should have situations where they also can have their sangha. So we still got a lot of work to do. In some situations, in some cultures, the older person is in the house with the younger people. That's okay. But in some cultures, they're not like that. And if the cultures are not like that, rather than the bodies going to old folks home, they really should be senior, as you call them in this country, senior citizen centers, where they can, in fact, associate with each other and have some younger people there too to help with the lifting and the things, prashadam, cooking and all of that. You can't expect the older people to be lifting heavy things because their bones just won't allow it. But that is one thing that's missing. Retirement homes for devotees, the older devotees. And literally, it should be like dams in themselves, but smaller dams, and have that. And if it's in a situation where we can even have a couple of cows there to supply the real milk, and this, it would be so wonderful. People then can live in a devotional atmosphere. And that would be better preparation. We're talking about these things. This has been on my mind for quite a while, because Papa says it makes it possible for the older person to prepare him or herself for the transition of a body to more favorable, subsequent life. So, as Papa is saying, this complete outlook, if things were working properly and the protection is given, then humanity will be successful. Right now, so many computerized things are there, so we're living life, Mr. Papa call it polished cats and dogs. So, the killing of the above-mentioned innocent creatures, the women, the cows, the children, this is totally forbidden. And with one does violate that, make life difficult, then our duration of life not only is going to be shortened, but it's also going to be difficult. And after a person leaves the body, that worried this group of protected, there should be people deserving protection, then Krishna will be very hard on them. The Yamaraj is very hard on them. They'll have to learn the lesson, and it's actually more the ignorance. They might not even get a human body next life. So, when women, I'll say one more thing about when women are not protected properly, then the children that come out are children that are little devils themselves. And that's why we have to be very, 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 very careful how we deal with this. Now, in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, there is one text where Lord Chaitanya, there is this, I'll read the translation, I won't go into the Sanskrit. The translation is so helpful, it's going to be helpful to us because of this fast pace, right now, more of passion. We are living life, many of us, because of employment, those who are still employed, they are being pushed to get so many things done. The computer has now become a very, very big part of work, but actually it's made people more and more mentally disturbed, because we have been led to think, oh, the computer has a processor and you just get things, you just click a button and this is done and that's done and that's done. But actually what happens is many employers have given more work to employees just because the computer is going to do a good part of it. And it's caused a situation where now people are in greater anxiety, and the effects of it are actually quite difficult. So we are dealing with, this is another form of lust. Lust is just wanting for me. Of course, there is lusty desires, sexual desires, which is illicit, but there's also lust in terms of wanting for ourselves and employees, wanting things, wanting to be the next million and the next million and the next million, and then pushing the employees that way. So the translation, I think is 22, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 16. Oh my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires. Although I have rendered these desires so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. This is our situation. This is our prayer. My Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of lusty desires, or wanted orders. This, that, all of them connected with lust. Although I've tried to render these desires so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. That means they haven't been satisfied. More and more and more and more lust. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I even desired to give them up. Oh, my Lord. They're trying to pull it up. Majah 22:16. Okay, good. So, oh, my Lord, oh, head of the Yadu dynasty. Recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened, and now I am giving them up. Due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires, and I now come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. Now, when I saw this, I said, that's my problem. There's a lot of problem also. We start from lusty desires. The desires are there. Sometimes we're told, yes, and we're told and we try to obey the regulated principles. No illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, no intoxication. But when the desires are still there, so you see this one, it says, unwanted orders of lusty desires. When the desires are not gone, you're not really free from it because the thoughts are still there, and therefore the temptations will still be there. And yeah, you may do a good job trying to suppress it, but real freedom is when you don't have a desire for those things. When you get to that point, then real happiness begins to come, internal happiness. And so the way this has been put, although I have rendered these desires so much service, and in the last desire, all right, we'll do it, they have not shown any mercy to me, which means the more we get involved in that, the more demands will be made. We have a chronic situation. So now my intelligence has been awakened. How does it become awakened? It gets awakened by not only chanting, but chanting seriously. The mood of a chanting is important. Chanting seriously, chanting with great attention, focusing on the name of the Lord and having the Lord, Radha and Krishna in your heart, in your thoughts while you chant. That's what's going to cause us to begin to give up the lusty desires. And at this point, then, just like this is ending, I refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires. And we realize that Krishna is the source of everything, and Krishna is the source of our happiness. You're going to watch whatever you want to watch. After a while, you get tired of it. It's only Krishna consciousness that keeps getting better and better and making us happier and happier. So that's what we have to be involved with. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. When we involve ourselves in the personal service of devotees, Guru, and Krishna, and chant seriously and not offend, we will be automatically saved in consciousness. That's called liberation. We're here in the material world, but then we're liberated as far as our consciousness goes. And so that's what's more important. And yes, this text talks about, could be talking about how cunning Duryodhana was, but Duryodhana suffered for it. There's more things about Duryodhana, maybe another time. That's in Gaga Samhita, if you're inclined to, but I'm looking at the time now. So we'll stop here. I'll read the text again. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by the Lord, by him, through his arrangement. Others also died, and the duration of life having been decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So,
thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Very nice class. So you told very nicely about the cow's milk and why we should protect the cows. That's a very important aspect really in today's society.
Yes.
So one person asked me a question, like you described, that cow's milk has this potassium and calcium and this and that. So that's good. But one guy asked me in India that the goat's milk is more better than cow's milk, because he was meat eater, and maybe eating cow also. I do not know. So he said that even we give the milk to the babies, and that's so good, and buffalo's milk is not bad either. I said buffalo has like her consciousness in like completely tamagun, and the cow is so fast and everything. So the brain tissue can actually develop very greatly, with the cow's milk rather than buffalo milk or even goat
You
milk.
answered him well. Yeah, go ahead.
So any other idea? What? But he was not convinced, Prabhu. Let me tell you, he was not convinced, because I was older in age, he just took it as it is, but he was not convinced.
Why was he concluding the goat's milk was better than, what was the evidence the goat's milk was better than cow's milk?
I do not know. He said even we can give it to little kids, infant, so why the older people cannot drink, and it's as good as it is, very close to mother's milk. So that's what he said. And
well, we go by what your Papa says, and he is insisting that milk is for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain, for understanding. This is from our guru. This is his purport. Understanding the higher aims, understanding the higher aims of life. See, then it means that there is something more than just the gross material to milk. If there is the finer tissues of the brain being nourished for understanding the higher aims of life, Srila Prabhupada connects it with cow's milk. And I may be speculating, but I have my doubts that goat milk would stimulate the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. Krishna has cows. Krishna maintains cows, not goats. Think about that. You tell him Krishna maintains cows. And Mother Yashoda and the gopis, they use cow's milk. There's a reason for it. They're pure devotees. And they prepare the cow for the milk. And Srila Prabhupada says the milk maintains the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life, understanding Krishna consciousness. So subtly underneath that, we're being told that actually the cow's milk is better if we're going to understand higher aims of life. And higher aims of life, what I'm reading it is Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, but many people do not believe in Krishna, like they may be believing in
that many people don't believe in Krishna
and Shiva or something, in India there are so many Shivaites.
I know, that is their misfortune, isn't it?
To convince them actually, So other thing, like you said, Prabhu, about the Garbhadhan Sanskar and other Sanskars, so you said at least the Garbhadhan Sanskar should be done, but like I think, there are 16 important Sanskars. They all should be done actually, Garbhadhan is great, but it cannot replace the other Sanskars, because there are 24 to 40 Sanskars described in different books, but out of them 16 are very important. And if the families follow those sanskars, the child will be definitely great, and he will be developing a good Krishna conscious in one band. But yes, if they can do just Garbhadhan sanskar, that's also fine. But other sanskars are also very, very important.
The other sanskars are important. The protection of women maintains the chastity of the society. So this one was particularly brought up. Prabhupada was bringing it up. The protection of children. The Garbhadhan Sanskara is the one that is done before the seeding process begins. Okay, so it's not like the other Sanskara is not important. All the way up to, first grains to the child, going to school, all those Sanskaras are there. Some of it, Srila Prabhupada, had it in ISKCON, we actually do those. But this one is from the very beginning, before the parents can, start having the child conceived. This is the samskara. So he was actually isolating that to talk about, to start off properly. Yes. So no, there's no Absolutely, the samskaras are all important because different aspects of life up to even marriage. It's there. We don't, that's all different stages of a growth. But the very first one for conceiving is governance sanskara, and that's, for children. That's why Srila Prabhupada brought that up in particular. But yeah, point taken of, yes, sanskaras are important. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I was just looking at the translation for the Chaitanya Charitamrita verse that you were talking about. And so what it seems to me like your intelligence has to be awakened. What can we do to have that intelligence awakened? And I ask that because a lot of times, we hear you. We are hearing you say, protect the brahmanas, protect the women. But it seems like as a woman, I ask for more. I demand more protection for myself than thinking about giving that protection to somebody. And it is this intelligence that is needed for me to understand it is not what I ask from others, but what it is I need to do. What is it we can do? I think I know everything there is to know. I'm having trouble actually practicing it, actually absorbing that instruction.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. What can we do?
In one word, compassion. In one word, compassion. Because I was listening to you, for yourself, but for others, that's how you put it.
No, what I'm saying is,
comment.
I know you are saying we need to do all these right things, but I am not able to do it because I'm still looking for those things for myself.
Yes.
And not so much in how I can do it for others. I mean, even a lot of times we have heard in this class and we hear the speakers say, if I come to you and I complain about something and you say to me, Mataji, you need to do it. Don't demand this from somebody else, but you be part of that solution. And why am I having trouble? Why am I having trouble being part of that solution? Why am I always asking somebody else to do the right thing? How will I learn for myself that I need to do the right thing and not worry about if others are doing it or not? Finding fault in others. It's so easy. It is so easy for me to say, Prabhu, you're doing this wrong. It is so hard for me to see what it is I am doing wrong. And I know that it is because of me that I am getting in this trouble, because I'm not able to look within. I'm not able to look within myself to see I am doing these things wrong. I know it, but I'm still having trouble. Why is that? And so who do I pray to, or what do I do to have this intelligence awakened?
Very, very, very good question. How do you get the intelligence to be awakened so that you can do, even knowing what it is that has to be done generally, and telling other people what they should do right, but then when it comes to ourselves, then it seems like we're having trouble doing what is right. That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
When we started compassion, we're talking about compassion. Well, compassion is connected to it. Compassion for others is very important. Now, let me explain a little more. This is some of the things that Bhakti Maharaj taught us. Krishna looks at, so you want to improve as a devotee. Your intelligence kicks in, of course, you'll be a better devotee. So to improve that, one of the things that can be done is you can look to give of yourself to help other devotees. The more help you give to other devotees, the more help even for non-devotees. The more assistance you give to them, the more Krishna is happy with you. And when Krishna is happy with you, Krishna solves the problems that you're having. So that's how it works. The more you open yourself, because right now you got to the point where, gee, I've heard everything that's supposed to be done, but I'm not doing it. What to do now? In other words, in a sense, you're saying, I'm stuck with knowing what to do, but not being able to do it. Krishna, there's nothing Krishna can't do. Okay, that's the first thing. There's nothing Krishna can't do for us. So the more compassion we show by being of service to others, the more Krishna will help us because we are serving others. So we have to be more selfless. Literally, you can start by saying, okay, every week, no week should go by without me having assisted somebody else. Now, it'd be difficult to say every day, but every week, at least once a week, something should be done by you to someone else. But how do I know? You talk to people. You talk to people generally. You converse with people. So what you should do is, and I practice that, this is how I'm able to assist. Listen to the conversation, because everybody talking to you may tell you something they're having difficulty with. You just have a conversation, but make a mental note of the difficulties they're having, and that is your opportunity to help them by trying to help them solve that difficulty.
Understand.
Something's very simple that, my tulsi is now left the body and I don't even have tulsi leaves now. It's just something simple like that. You can arrange to get them tulsi leaves. They'll be so grateful. They're not asking you to do it for them, but they just mention it in passing. Those things, that little things that's there. If you look to help like that, then that person is happier with you. The bond of your relationship becomes better, it becomes stronger. But more important, Krishna doesn't miss anything. He knows all of that. And for helping like that, then where you're stuck, Krishna starts releasing. You cannot purify yourself. Only Krishna can purify you. You cannot. He repeated that so much. He says, I'm going to be pure. No, if Krishna will purify you, but Krishna wants you to serve others. And the more you serve others, so through conversation like that, to pick up the things that are needed through conversation like that, and you just start assisting. Sometimes it'll be just a word, a kind word, but assisting people for what their needs are when they're not requesting for it is a very, very, very strong way to get them happier with you. And Krishna's happiness with us, and Krishna being happy with us, and Guru being happy with us, they're going to help us with our problems. And that's one way to get around the issue. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
This is just for the comment, Prabhuji. So this class was really, really wonderful. So you covered about very well in the depth. You covered about the Brahmanaj protection, couch protection, women protection, children protection, and old age people protection. So you focused more on the Bana Sankara. So I remember the shloka in the Bhagavad Gita that we have Sankaro Narakaya Vakalugadan Kulassacha Patanti Pitaro Hiyasa Lupta Pindo Daka Kriya. So yeah, so if the women are not given protection, so means there will be unwanted progeny. So yeah, so really nice, nicely you covered everything, Prabhuji. So thank you so much. Thank you so very much for wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna's mercy. Yes, I mean the Varnachankara, unwanted children, unwanted population are given us. I believe me, I've taught in public school before, and I know what can it be like. A whole lot of people that were brought into this world under mode of ignorance situations have been they're big trouble. They cause trouble everywhere to themselves, to even the bus drivers or the schools. I mean, even they have had troubles with some of these children. So it's a serious issue that at least devotees, we have to be careful how we bring children into the world so that we don't add to already the more ignorant situation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments? Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you very much for giving me the chance to serve. I'm always happy to serve. To see you.
Wonderful class, Prabhu.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
A lot of things, it's for seniors also. It's becoming, those joint families are there, those things are not there anymore. And
yeah, unfortunately.
Giving advice, grandparents giving advice, those things, we cannot blame children also the way they are running around and the way their association outside of the house.
Yeah.
And all those things comes to them, it's very hard for them too. Not only our telling, our older people telling, grandparents telling, but it's very hard for this Kali Yuga, this busy life, Without making money, they cannot live. Without making other friendships or anything, they cannot. That's one thing it bothers me.
Unfortunately, yeah, things are getting worse. We can pray for them, no?
That's all.
You can advise, and then you can pray. And the sages in Naimisharanya, what do? They made a sacrifice for the welfare of all humanity. That, even that. So that shows us that, yes, things are not in our hands. We may get disturbed with the way things are going, but then when we request the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of our compassion, again, it comes down to compassion for others to help, he will. I mean, his methods are not something we can find out, but he will definitely help.
For everything, we have to hold his lotus feet. That's it.
Absolutely. Be at his lotus feet. Be at his lotus feet.
He's the one who's all. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Pariksit Prabhu. What a very enlightening class, very engaging and relevant. And I just wanted to give a special thanks to him because he on short notice, he filled in today for Mother Archana Bhakti. So thank you for doing that as a service to our community here. We very much appreciate it.
Hare Krishna.
So we hope everybody has a wonderful Krishna conscious day. And plenty of teachings to meditate upon throughout the day. And we'll come back again tomorrow morning at 7:50 for Srimad Bhagavatam class again.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.